Hey, working moms, let me ask you, when life feels off balance, what's the first thing you feel? If you said overwhelmed, you're not alone. In fact, it's the number one word my clients use to describe their day to day life. And here's the kicker, it's not just a busy calendar causing it, it's a fight or flight response playing out in your body. In this episode, we're diving into what overwhelm really is, the two main ways women react to it. You're probably one or the other, and what to do in the moment to get out of the cycle. Plus, I'm giving away a free tool that's helped my clients go from frazzled to focused in just 10 minutes a day. If you're tired of running on empty, this one's for you. You ready, working moms? Let's get to it. Hey, working moms. Excited to be with you today. I'm in the middle of prepping for the next Ambitious and Balanced cohort that starts in the middle of May. And I've been thinking a lot about this next group and coaching them and the current cohort and what they're experiencing right now. And there's this universal experience that so many working moms have, and a response that experience is so typical that I wanted to bring it on today's podcast episode and talk about it. If you are not on the wait list for the May cohort, I really highly suggest that you get on that, because I am going to be sending out emails to that group specifically, and they're going to be offered a little something special when they sign up. So you can go to the show notes for the link to sign up for the next Ambitious and Balanced cohort and get on that wait list. We start in the middle of May. Okay, so what is this universal experience that so many working moms, every working mom that I know, has experienced? What is it? So here's how the conversation almost always starts when I start to talk about work-life balance, and particularly sustainable work-life balance, because remember, that's what I'm all about. It's not just about feeling better today. I want you to learn the skills that are necessary to sustainably feel balanced and in control, no matter what your circumstances are, whether that's today in today's current job, or it's in 2 years from now in the next job, or when you move up and you get promoted, or whether you have one kid or two kids or five kids, right? So often, my conversations with my clients and in my cohorts, it starts with this. It starts with me asking them, what does balance really mean to you? And I literally write it out on a piece of paper, and we look at it, and they start, we all kind of have a universal idea of what this typically means when we start answering that. It's things like, you want time for yourself. You want time for your family. You don't want to always feel like you're working all of the time, right? You don't always want to be thinking about work. You want to rest more. You want more fun in your life. But then the conversation always follows up with this next question, which is this: what does imbalance look like? Right? We first paint a picture, a vision of what balance is and what your goal is when we talk about sustainable work-life balance. And then we talk about what kind of life in an imbalanced state looks like today, so that then we could create this roadmap, right, from here to there. Almost always, the very first thing that I hear from working moms when we start talking about imbalance and how that looks today is this. They say, overwhelmed, right? Overwhelmed is a precursor to burnout, right? If you stay in overwhelm too long, you're going to burn out. That's why it causes imbalance. Other types of things that I hear my clients say a lot is there's this feeling of anxiousness and worry about not being able to get everything done. That sort of comes in a life of imbalance. It feels like you're sort of failing all of the time and you're not living up to expectations in any part of your life. It feels like you're sort of on the bottom of the priority list and your family is getting the leftovers when you're over prioritizing work. So today on the podcast, I want to talk about the universal experience that we as working moms have that leads to burnout, and that is overwhelm. 65% of working moms, according to a study done in 2024, claim to experience regular seasons of overwhelm. That's chronic overwhelm, right? That's not just occasionally feeling like you're overworking and you can't get it all done. It's a chronic state of feeling behind, like you're not prioritizing enough sleep or rest, or feeling like you're never getting enough done. On top of that, 74% of working moms that have been surveyed feel like they're the ones that carry the mental load of the family, which means that you're the ones thinking about childcare, the doctor's appointments that need to be scheduled, the summer camps that need to be booked, the enriching experience, the routines, how to best parent and handle specific situations for your kids, pickups, drop-offs, right? This is why working moms experience what's called the double shift, right? You work full-time in a day job, and then you come home and you work another full-time job just managing your family. And if 74% of you are feeling this way, feeling like you are essentially working two full-time jobs, it makes sense why overwhelm is such a common experience. Because overwhelm, at the heart of it, is a correlation between how much you have to do and how much time and at what quality you have to do it, right? Think about it like it's an equation. The amount of tasks that you need to get done, plus the expectation of how well you execute all of those tasks, plus the amount of time that you have to get it done, equals either a state of overwhelm or a state of feeling successful and balanced. The mindset that I hear working moms have that causes a lot of the overwhelm, it sort of sounds like this. There's not enough time. I can't get it all done. There's too much to do. I should be able to get more done. I'm not doing enough. I didn't get enough done today. If any of these thoughts chronically pass through your head, it causes a regular state of feeling overwhelmed. And then when you're thinking, I can't get it all done, there's not enough time, and you're feeling overwhelmed, you likely do one of two things. It actually amazes me how predictable this is. You either feel paralyzed by the overwhelmed and procrastinate, meaning you do the non-essential tasks, you move into indecision about what to do or what to focus on, how to approach those tasks. You may even get up and get a snack for yourself when you're feeling overwhelmed, or you take a short break and you scroll social media, which likely turns into a really long break, right? So you either feel paralyzed by the overwhelmed, or you fling into action and you move into what I call hyper-doing, hyperactivity, right? Pedal to the metal, you just get things done. And while that might sound like a really good thing on some level, the problem is that hyperactivity always leads to overworking. You work later than you want to, you log back on, you log on the weekends, you stay available to your team or to your clients. You're like in work mode all of the time, trying to get as many things done as possible. You don't prioritize rest, you cancel your workout class, you operate on little to no sleep. You're like a machine just trying to crank out tasks. So which one are you? Take a moment, think about it. I would say my clients are pretty split, 50-50, right? Even in this current cohort, when we were having a conversation about overwhelm, it was 50-50 on the type of overwhelmed person that feels like it moves them into procrastination and indecision, and then the type of person that kind of moves them into hyperactivity. For me, personally, I am a procrastinator. When I feel overwhelmed, my brain literally feels like it's in a fog and like I can't make any decision about anything. I don't know what to do. And so I just kind of stare at my to-do list, sometimes wondering what I should do for a long period of time, or I do all those easy tasks and I check my emails and clear out my inbox again, or I scroll social media a little bit and answer a couple of posts, things like that. Both reactions to overwhelm, both the feelings of being paralyzed by it and the hyperdrive, cause burnout and unsustainable balance. Because at the end of the day, both leave you feeling exhausted with nothing left over for your family or for yourself or for your marriage or for your personal life in general. And you really can't experience sustainable work-life balance if you don't have a life outside of work, right? If you avoid rest and personal time and family time. It makes sense why overwhelm is the number one thing that working moms mention when they start talking about feeling out of balance and a lack of balance. To give you an example, my client Elena, and I'm protecting her privacy, so I'm just calling her Elena here, but Elena was an avoider when it came to overwhelm. She was the procrastinator. She was the person that went into inaction, right? The moment her brain offered to her that she couldn't get something done at the level that she wanted to in the time that was allotted to her, this wave of overwhelm would hit her, right? And that's how a lot of women describe it. It's how I literally feel it as well. Literally a wave that starts from head and it flushes down your entire body. It's a body experience, right? Her heart would start pounding rapidly. Her throat would start to tighten. Her shoulders would tense and she would feel paralyzed in this moment. Now, can you imagine looking at your to-do list in this paralyzed, overwhelmed state in your body and actually being able to accomplish anything in any effective or efficient way? No, of course not. So for her as an avoider, she would check her email one more time. She'd answer her Slack messages. She'd check off the really easy things off her list, the simple things. She'd get back to someone that she needed to get back to. Sometimes she'd scroll social media. She would pretty much do anything except what really needed to get done. Isn't that wild how this works? I know she's not alone because I have a very similar flavor of overwhelm for myself. And because I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of women and personally talked to them about their experience of overwhelm. And I know they experience something very similar. So I know there's many of you out there that have experienced the same thing. I have another client, Erin. Erin was the hyper-doer type, right? She didn't get paralyzed. She whipped herself into action. She'd frantically answer messages and check emails and try to do as many things as she possibly could. When her kids got home from school, she just kept working as she was making them snacks and trying to set up an activity. They probably got a lot more screen time than she wanted to. Dinner was sort of thrown together. There was barely a conversation with her husband. She couldn't stop her brain from thinking about work and answering the emails. She was just trying to get as many things done as possible. I think it's important for you to take a moment and identify which overwhelmed person you are. When you're overwhelmed, what do you tend to do? And how does it feel in your body? Maybe you don't have the heart palpitations like my client does and like I do. Maybe it looks a little bit different from you. But I want to draw attention to the experience that you are having in your body because at the heart of overwhelm, literally what's actually happening is you're having a fight or flight response. Fight or flight is the nervous system's response to overwhelm, where your brain oftentimes releases adrenaline that pulses through your body, which is what makes your heart race and what creates the tingling in your fingers and the tensions in your arms and your shoulders. Because when you feel overwhelmed, your body is trying to help you out by flooding you with adrenaline, helping you either so that you can fight, or in this case, move into hyperactivity mode, or flee. And in this case, avoid and procrastinate. This is really important to understand because as we move into talking about how to end the overwhelm cycle, one of the things you have to understand is that it is not just your circumstances that we entirely need to change. Some of it is addressing the fight or flight response. And so when I start talking about this with my clients and start talking about solutions, I talk about it in two ways: dealing with it in the moment and dealing with it outside of the moment. With my clients in the Ambitious and Balanced program, I actually break it down into two types of tools and strategies that I teach, right? The in-the-moment strategies, what do you do when you're experiencing overwhelm and your heart is racing and you feel like you're going to move into procrastination or into hyperactivity? And then a different set of tools to try to help you circumvent that cycle so it happens less. It's important to remember that overwhelm happens. You're never going to create a perfect life and a perfect set of circumstances where you don't get overwhelmed, right? You're too ambitious of a person. That's why you listen to this podcast. You're an ambitious working mom. You're too goal focused. You have a lot of things you want to accomplish in your life. You're never going to magically have a schedule where everything that you want to do magically fits into it, right? It just isn't going to happen that way. So instead of chasing a perfect set of circumstances where you never get overwhelmed, I would rather you develop a toolkit to help that you can draw on to help you get out of overwhelm as quickly as possible. So let's talk about kind of each of these types of tools. Let's start with the in the moment ones. There are several that I teach my clients, but you have to remember that all of them are about handling the emotional response of the moment, right? The fight or flight experience that's happening in the moment. Let me tell you, when you start to work with me, you build up an immense amount of emotional resiliency because that's what this is all about. In so many ways, dealing with the guilt, dealing with stress, dealing with overwhelm, learning how to say no more. These are emotional moments that you have to learn how to process through. And so the best way I can teach you how to do that is by learning a set of emotional processing tools to help you process through that moment, right? To be proactive in that moment. There's just too much in life that you can't control, right? You can't control how much your partner helps out around the house. You can't control if your kids have meltdowns. You can't control probably entirely how many things you have on your to-do list to do at work. But there is something that you always have control over, and that is your response. And that's what these sort of in-the-moment tools are all about. They're about getting you out of reactive mode and into a proactive state in these moments, which means you've got to get yourself out of fight or flight. So for my clients, I teach them a very specific process. I call it the pivot protocol. It's a 6-step, 2-minute process that literally teaches you how to handle that flood of or emotional wave of anxiety, of frustration, of overwhelm, of guilt, whatever it may be. And I've walked you through that process a bit here on the podcast before, so I'm not going to spend too much time here. I'm going to just link to a couple of those episodes in the show notes, so check those out. But if I go back to my client Elena, now she was the one that was feeling really overwhelmed and she would immediately feel paralyzed and she'd procrastinate. What she learned how to do was simply swivel in her chair, or pivot in her chair, as we like to call it. That was the beginning for her. That was her proactive step to get out of her overwhelmed feeling. She would swivel in her chair away from the computer, look out the window for 30 seconds to a minute sometimes. Sometimes she'd stand up and get out of the chair, look out the window. Sometimes, if it was a really big feeling, she'd take a walk around the block if she had 5 minutes to do that. But essentially what she was doing when she pivoted in her chair, when she took that walk, instead of listening to music, scrolling her phone for a minute to kind of avoid this feeling of overwhelmed, instead she would sit with it. She'd breathe through it. She'd focus on how her heart was beating really fast and she'd watch it soften. She'd literally process her emotions in the moment. For my client, Erin, she'd take out a journal and a pen. She'd write out how she was feeling. She would talk to herself in written form because that was how it worked, how it was best worked out for her. She would sort of just get out all of the things that she was thinking that was causing that overwhelm, and she would feel her body start to subside. It's almost like the tide wave kind of goes out, right? Now, besides the pivot protocol, I have a whole list of 2-minute reset ideas that I offer to my clients, ways of getting out of this overwhelmed state quickly, noticing the overwhelm, and then proactively getting yourself out of that fight or flight state so you don't get paralyzed and you don't move into hyperactivity. What I want you to walk away with, even if we don't go into too much detail about each and every one of these tools, is that it's about handling the emotion in the moment. Getting out of that fight or flight moment and learning how to do that. And then there's the long-term strategies, right? These are the tools that you get to access on a daily basis that's going to help you stay out of overwhelmed as often as possible. These are the strategies that sort of answer the question, how can I structure my life so that I feel overwhelmed less, right? It's sort of about structure. And for my clients, I teach them 2 types of long-term strategies. I teach them time management and prioritization strategies, which focus on literally creating a life where there's less on your to-do list, right? Or creating a capacity to do more and be more proactive with your time so you actually achieve more in less time. And also mindset strategies. Because remember, overwhelm comes from the thought, I don't have enough time. I can't get it all done. There's too much to do. I should be able to get more done. Overwhelm is not just a life circumstance, it's a mindset. And so we want to address both when we talk about long-term strategies. Now, when it comes to time management in the Ambitious and Balanced program, we focus on 4 essential priorities. Anyone that has learned to create sustainable work-life balance between work and home have literally mastered the ability to prioritize these 4 things, right? It's the foundation of the Ambitious and Balanced program, where I teach you not only what those 4 priorities are, but how to hold to those priorities no matter what. We also focus on saying yes less so that you have less on your to-do list, like learning how to align your commitments to your goals and your strengths and your job opportunities. So often women say yes to things that are way outside of what they should actually be doing in their job because you don't want to let anyone down. You don't want anybody to be disappointed. You don't want to overwhelm your team, right? You want to prove yourself in some way. Enough with that. With my clients, I teach them a yes criteria to help them determine what meetings to say yes to, what opportunities to take, and ultimately what they need to let go of. When it comes to mindset, I actually teach something called the daily Kickstart. This is a 10-minute morning practice that helps you cultivate that I'm amazing, I'm a badass, I know how to manage my time and my life and my commitments, I know how valuable I am. Because I promise, when you show up with that level of confidence, you're going to feel overwhelmed less. That daily Kickstart, that 10-minute morning practice, that's actually something that I'm giving away for free. Never before have I actually offered this daily practice outside of my paid clients until right now. I would love for you to get your hands on it, to actually walk you through it. And rather than me just share it here, I'm actually just giving it to you so that when you sign up, not only do you get the 10-minute daily practice, you get it in PDF form. It's just 6 questions. It takes you 10 minutes to do it, but I also walk you through it in video form as well so that you can do it effectively from the moment you start doing it. I'm so excited to offer this to you, and you can get your copy of the Daily Kickstart that's going to help you end this cycle of overwhelm by going to www.ambitiousandbalanced.com/daily-kickstart. Now, of course, I'm going to put that in the show notes for you. Consistently, my clients actually point to this daily kickstart practice as being the game changer for them, right? Just in like the first week, they'll come back to me and they say, I notice a difference. When I start thinking these amazing thoughts about myself, I shift what I do during the day. I shift how I manage my time. I shift how I feel about myself and the things that I'm doing. It is a game changer. I'm so excited to be able to get this into your hands. I've been working on this for a while, so you're not going to want to miss out on it. All right, so let's recap real fast. Ready? So overwhelm is the precursor to burnout, and it's literally the opposite of a balanced life. Working moms experience higher levels of burnout because they literally are doing 2 jobs, and the expectations that are put on women over the last 50 years to rise to the top of their companies and operate like they're stay-at-home moms has made the fight against overwhelm and burnout really difficult for us. The equation that creates overwhelm is how many things you have on your to-do list, plus unrealistic expectations of what you can achieve, plus a lack of time. When women enter a state of overwhelm, they really do one of 2 things. They either feel paralyzed by it and they start procrastinating, which means they get behind in the things that they really need to get done, and it sort of perpetuates this feeling like they're not getting enough done and failing. Or they move into hyperdrive and they sacrifice their personal time and their family time in order to try to alleviate the amount of things that they need to get done. But overwhelm really is just a state of fight or flight. It's your body's response to having too many things on your list with not enough time to get it all done. And the fastest way to get yourself out of fight or flight is to take care of that emotional response in the moment. Now, if you're one of my clients, you can use the pivot protocol that I walk you through, or you can literally learn how to swivel in your chair or go for a walk or grab a journal, do something to calm down your nervous system, which is really what needs to be cared for in that moment. But you can also proactively stay out of overwhelm by effectively prioritizing your time and focusing on the things that really matter, just like I do in the Ambitious and Balanced program, where we focus on 4 key priorities and cultivate a confident mindset, which you can do by downloading my free daily Kickstart. Working moms, you do not need to settle for overwhelm. The cards, yes, have been stacked against you with too many expectations, too many demands that are placed on you by our culture and society and jobs, but you don't have to wait for society to change to start really feeling sustainably balanced. You could do that right now. Download that daily Kickstart. That's a good first step. And get on the wait list for the May cohort of Ambitious and Balanced. You got this, working moms. I know it. All right, till next week, let's get to it. The next step to getting unstuck and having more days where you bounce out of bed feeling certain that you're doing exactly what you want to be doing, regaining your confidence, ending all of that negative chatter in your head, is to book a free breakthrough call. This is a strategy call where I will guide you through setting a vision for the life that you want to lead as a working mom, and then I'll lay out a plan for exactly how we will achieve that together through one-on-one coaching. You can book that call by going to RebeccaOlsonCoaching.com/book. All right, working moms, let's get to it.